So the next thing that happens is that Enkidu is seduced by Shamat. Shamat is not really a prostitute. It's better to think of her as a priestess of Ishtar, the goddess of love, who we'll meet later in the epic. She's dedicated her life to what the Babylonians considered the sacred mystery of sexual union. So she's a servant to love and eros and sexual union. But she is the creature who seduces and brings Enkidu back to civilization. In the case of Gilgamesh, the seduction is a seduction into civilization. So any association of sex with sin that you might have from Western culture, I want you to bracket that as we read these passages, because sexual union and eros here are one of the glories of civilization. They're to be celebrated, and Enkidu is being initiated into civilization, the glories of culture, through a sexual act. So let me read some of these passages. Shamat, release your clenched arms, expose your sex so he can take in your voluptuousness. Spread out your robe so he can lie upon you and perform for this primitive the task of womankind. And we get descriptions of Enkidu, his lust groaning over her. For 6 days and 7 nights he stayed aroused and had intercourse with the harlot until he was sated with her charms. The gazelles saw Enkidu and darted off. The wild animals distanced themselves from his body. So the important thing to realize here is, number one, sex here, sexual union, is one of the pleasures of civilization, one of the ways of civilizing Enkidu into culture and civilization. And the second thing to notice is that this experience creates a divide between human nature and animals. Sexual union is imagined here and staged here as a door to human culture. And we start to see signs that Enkidu's mind and body begin to change because of this experience with Shamat. Enkidu was diminished. His running was not as before. He's exhausted. He's tired, right, on the one hand. But then he also drew himself up, for his understanding had broadened. There's something about his mind that is opening. He's being exposed to human acts that, as an animal and a natural man in his early days, he was not exposed to. Turning around, he sat down at the harlot's feet, gazing into her face, his ears attentive as the harlot spoke. The harlot said to Enkidu, "You are beautiful, Enkidu. You are become like a god." That's a beautiful passage, right? I encourage you to read that again. It's a beautiful passage where this animalistic-like figure, and the image here, the drawing there, shows the kind of shaggy hair of Enkidu. He is looking eye to eye into another creature for the first time, and he's experiencing not only pleasure, but he's experiencing a kind of vulnerability and an intimate connection. And Shamat continues to work the progress of bringing him into some of the glories of civilization, such as food, wine, clothing, etc. Shamat clothed him with one piece of her dress, while she clothed herself with a second. She brought him to the hut of the shepherds. They placed food in front of him. They placed beer in front of him. So again, he begins to become initiated into things like language, love, drink, agriculture, domestication. He puts on some clothing and becomes like a warrior. He took up his weapon and chased lions so that the shepherds could eat. He routed the wolves and chased the lions. With Enkidu as their guard, the herders could lie down. So now he is helping the shepherds, right? He is in the game of domestication. He's becoming a warrior and a hunter. He's helping the shepherds protect their domesticated crops and animals. He is routing the wolves, chasing the lions away, and becoming a guardian for the shepherds, rather than a natural man, an animalistic presence that the shepherds are wanting to kind of get rid of.